The auditorium lights dimmed, and my heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. 300 graduates filled those chairs, proud families packed the bleachers, and somewhere in that sea of burgundy caps and gowns sat my daughter Emma. She had made it crystal clear I wasn't welcome. The invitation never came, not even a text message. 4 years of college, and I learned about her graduation the same way strangers did, through her Instagram story. A casual photo of her cap with "finally done" scrawled across it. No mention of the woman who sacrificed everything to get her there. I sat in my car outside the ceremony hall, engine running, hands gripping the steering wheel, until my knuckles turned white. The parking lot buzzed with families carrying flowers and balloons. Fathers adjusting ties. Mothers wiping away proud tears. Everyone belonged here except me. The rejection burned like acid in my chest. After everything we'd been through, after every sacrifice I'd made, Emma had decided I wasn't worthy of witnessing her greatest achievement. The daughter I'd raised alone since she was 8 years old had erased me from her moment of triumph. But I stayed. Some masochistic part of me needed to be close, even if I couldn't be inside, even if she'd rather I didn't exist. The ceremony had already begun when I finally killed the engine. Through the tall windows, I could see the stage where the dean stood at the podium, his voice carrying faintly across the parking lot. Emma was somewhere in those rows, probably relieved that her embarrassing mother had stayed away. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister Rachel. "How's the graduation? Send pictures." I stared at the message until my eyes blurred. How could I explain that I was sitting alone in a parking lot like some kind of stalker? That my own daughter had decided I was too much of a disappointment to share her special day? The worst part was knowing she had every right to feel that way. 3 years ago, everything fell apart. The company I'd built from nothing crumbled overnight when my business partner embezzled nearly everything we had. The scandal made local headlines. Local entrepreneur loses everything in partner's fraud scheme. Emma was a sophomore then, and suddenly her tuition payments stopped coming. I remember the phone call like it was yesterday, Emma's voice cold and distant through the receiver. "Mom, the bursar's office says my account is overdue. What's going on?" I sat in what used to be my corner office, staring at the bare walls where my awards once hung. Everything was gone. The business, the house, my reputation. All of it poisoned by someone I'd trusted like family. "There's been a problem with the business, sweetheart. I'm working on it." "What kind of problem? Mom, are you okay? You sound weird." How do you tell your daughter that you failed her? That all your promises about providing for her education were built on a foundation that turned out to be quicksand? "I need a few weeks to sort things out. Can you talk to financial aid about a temporary extension?" The silence on the other end stretched like a chasm between us. "Mom, what aren't you telling me? The bursar said this is the third notice. How long has this been going on?" That's when I made the mistake that would haunt our relationship for the next 3 years. Instead of telling Emma the truth that I'd lost everything but was fighting to get it back, I lied. "Everything's fine. There's just a cash flow issue. You don't need to worry about anything." But Emma wasn't stupid. Within a week, she'd figured out the truth. The fraud hit the news. Our house went into foreclosure. I had to move into a studio apartment above a pizza shop downtown. The woman who'd once lectured her about responsibility and honesty had been lying to her face while her world collapsed. The confrontation came during winter break. Emma stormed into my cramped apartment, her face twisted with anger and betrayal. "3 months, Mom. You lied to me for 3 months while I was stressing about grades and finals, and the whole time you knew I might have to drop out. How could you do that to me?" I sat on my salvaged couch, surrounded by cardboard boxes and the remnants of our old life. Every word she said was true, and that made it cut deeper. "I was trying to protect you. I thought I could fix it before you had to know." "Protect me? I'm 20 years old. I'm not a child anymore." Emma paced the tiny space like a caged animal. "Do you have any idea what it's like finding out from my roommate's mom that your own mother is front-page news for losing everything?" That's when she said the words that still echo in my head. "I can't trust anything you tell me anymore." Emma finished her sophomore year with loans and work-study programs. She moved in with friends over the summer instead of coming home. Our conversations became monthly phone calls filled with awkward small talk. She was polite but distant, like I was an acquaintance she was obligated to check in with. I threw myself into rebuilding. Started a consulting business from my laptop, working 18-hour days. Slowly, painfully, I began to claw my way back. But by then, the damage was done. Emma had learned to navigate college without me. She'd learned to live without me. The consulting business took off faster than I dared hope. Within a year, I was earning more than I ever had before. But success felt hollow when the person I'd built it for no longer wanted any part of it. I tried to reconnect, sent care packages that went unacknowledged, offered to help with expenses and got polite refusals. Emma had decided she was better off handling things herself, and maybe she was right. I'd proven I couldn't be trusted with her security. Junior year, she started dating Marcus. I learned about him the same way I learned about everything else in her life through social media and the occasional comment from Rachel, who somehow stayed in touch with Emma when I couldn't. "He's a good kid," Rachel told me during one of our weekly calls. "Computer science major, really smart, his family has money." The implication hung in the air between us. Emma had found stability, just not with me. I met Marcus exactly once, during an awkward lunch when Emma was home for spring break. He was everything I'd expected: clean-cut, polite, confident in that way that comes from never having to worry about money. Emma smiled more in that hour than I'd seen her smile around me in years. Marcus got accepted to Stanford's graduate program, Emma announced over dessert. "That's wonderful," I said, meaning it. "You must be so proud." "We're both excited. I'm hoping to find something in the Bay Area after graduation." They were a unit now, making plans that didn't include me. I should have been happy that Emma had found someone who could give her the security I'd failed to provide. Instead, I felt like I was watching my daughter disappear into someone else's life. Senior year brought a new distance. Emma stopped coming home for holidays. Our phone calls dropped to every few months. When I tried to ask about her plans after graduation, I got vague responses about job hunting and maybe moving to California. I didn't even know she'd found a job until I saw her LinkedIn update. "Excited to announce I'll be starting as a junior analyst at Harrison Associates in San Francisco this fall." 43 likes from friends and classmates celebrating her success. I wasn't even connected to her professional profile. That's when I realized she wasn't just pulling away from me. She was building a life where I didn't exist. The graduation exclusion shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. It gutted me. After everything, some naive part of me had hoped that maybe, on this one day, she'd want her mother there. I was still sitting in my car, lost in the painful spiral of our history, when the sound of applause drifted from the building. The ceremony was winding down. Soon, graduates would come pouring out into the parking lot, into the arms of families who'd been invited to share their moment. That's when I saw her best friend Sarah approaching my car. Sarah Chen had been Emma's roommate since freshman year. Unlike Emma, Sarah had never iced me out completely. She'd nod politely when we passed on campus, ask how I was doing with genuine warmth during the rare occasions we'd bump into each other. Now she stood beside my driver's side window, still wearing her cap and gown, her face flushed from the ceremony. I rolled down the window. "Mrs. Patterson, I thought I saw your car." "Hi, Sarah. Congratulations on graduating." I tried to smile, but it felt brittle on my face. "How was the ceremony?" Sarah's expression shifted, became more serious. "Can we talk? There's something you need to know." My stomach dropped. "Is Emma okay?" "She's fine, she just doesn't know the truth." Sarah placed her hand on my car door. "About her scholarship, about who really paid for her education these last 2 years." The world tilted sideways. "What are you talking about?" "The Hamilton Merit Scholarship. The one that covered her full tuition junior and senior year." Sarah's eyes searched my face. "Emma thinks it's because of her grades, but I know the truth. My mom works in the development office." I couldn't breathe. The Hamilton Scholarship was something Emma had mentioned in one of our rare conversations. A prestigious award that had saved her from crushing debt. She'd been so proud of earning it. "Mrs. Patterson, I know you're the anonymous donor who funded that scholarship. My mom handles the paperwork for major gifts. She's not supposed to tell anyone, but she recognized your name when I mentioned Emma was my roommate. The secret I'd guarded for 2 years hung in the air between us. After the business collapsed, after I'd lost Emma's trust, I'd found another way to take care of her education. Anonymous donations to establish a merit scholarship that, somehow, Emma perfectly qualified for. You can't tell her, I said quickly. She made it clear she doesn't want my help. But she's miserable, Sarah said. She pretends everything's fine, but I see how she looks when other people talk about their families. She misses you, Mrs. Patterson. She's just too proud and too hurt to admit it. Before I could respond, Sarah was walking back toward the building. The reception's about to start, she called over her shoulder. Maybe you should come inside after all. I sat frozen in my car as families began streaming toward the reception hall. Emma was in there somewhere, celebrating with Marcus and their friends, probably relieved that her mother hadn't shown up to make things awkward. But Sarah's words echoed in my head. She misses you. The reception was already in full swing when I finally worked up the courage to enter. The hall buzzed with conversation and laughter. Graduates posed for photos with proud families. A jazz quartet played softly in the corner. I spotted Emma across the room, radiant in her cap and gown, surrounded by Marcus and his parents. They looked like the perfect family tableaus, successful, happy, complete. Emma was laughing at something Marcus's father had said, her smile bright and genuine. I should have left then, should have respected her choice to celebrate without me, but I couldn't make my feet move toward the exit. That's when the chaos started. Sarah had approached the microphone at the front of the room. As the 2024 class president, she was supposed to give a brief thank you speech before the informal celebration continued. But as her voice carried across the reception hall, I realized this wasn't going to be a typical thank you. Before we continue celebrating, I want to take a moment to recognize some special people who made our success possible. Our families, our professors, our friends who supported us through 4 years of growth and challenge. Across the room, I saw Emma smile and applaud politely. Marcus's arm was around her waist. She looked happy and settled, ready to move forward into her new life. But sometimes, Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger, the people who sacrifice the most for our success are the ones who don't get recognized. Sometimes they work behind the scenes, giving everything they have without asking for credit or acknowledgement. A chill ran down my spine. Sarah's eyes found mine across the crowded room. I want to tell you about the Hamilton Merit Scholarship. This prestigious award has covered full tuition for several deserving students over the past 2 years, allowing them to graduate debt-free and pursue their dreams without financial burden. The room had grown quieter, people sensing that something significant was happening. What makes this scholarship special isn't just the financial support. It's that it was created and funded entirely by anonymous donors who wanted to invest in students' futures without any expectation of recognition or return. Emma was no longer smiling. Something in Sarah's tone had caught her attention. Today, one of our graduating seniors is here because of this scholarship. Emma Patterson received the Hamilton Merit Award for both her junior and senior years, allowing her to complete her education and graduate with the rest of us. I watched my daughter's face change as her name echoed through the room. Confusion first, then something that looked like dread. Emma believes she earned this scholarship through academic merit alone, and she did excel academically. Her grades and achievements absolutely qualified her for recognition. But the truth about who made this possible is something she deserves to know. The room was completely silent now. Even the jazz quartet had stopped playing. The Hamilton Merit Scholarship was created and funded by Emma's mother, Mrs. Diana Patterson. After losing her business and facing financial hardship, instead of giving up on her daughter's education, she found a way to ensure Emma could finish college without debt. She did this anonymously, never seeking credit or recognition, simply because she wanted her daughter to succeed. The sound that escaped Emma's throat was barely human. Across the room, I watched my daughter's face crumble as the truth hit her. Marcus's parents looked uncomfortable. Marcus himself seemed frozen, unsure how to react. Mrs. Patterson sacrificed everything to rebuild her life and create this opportunity. She's here today, even though she wasn't invited to graduation, because she couldn't bear to miss her daughter's achievement, an achievement she made possible. Emma was staring at me now across the crowded room. Tears streamed down her face, but I couldn't read her expression. Anger, humiliation, betrayal? Sarah wasn't finished. I'm sharing this because I believe Emma has the right to know the truth, and because sometimes pride keeps us from acknowledging the people who love us most, even when they've made mistakes. The room erupted in whispered conversations. People were turning to look at me, at Emma, trying to process what they just heard. Some faces showed admiration, others curiosity or discomfort. But I only cared about one face. Emma was pushing through the crowd now, moving toward me with determined steps. Marcus called her name, but she didn't slow down. When she reached me, we stood facing each other in the middle of the reception hall, surrounded by hundreds of people, but completely alone in our bubble of reckoning. Is it true? Her voice was barely above a whisper. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. All this time, you let me think I'd earned it on my own. You did earn it, your grades, your achievements. Don't. Emma held up a hand. Just don't. How could you do this? How could you let me believe I was finally independent when you were still taking care of everything? The hurt in her voice was devastating. Even my attempt to help had become another betrayal in her eyes. You said you didn't want my help. You made it clear you were better off without me. This was the only way I could make sure you finished school without compromising your independence. My independence? Emma's laugh was bitter. What independence? You've been puppeting my life from behind the scenes. Do you have any idea how this feels? Around us, the reception had essentially stopped. Conversations had died as people strained to witness our confrontation. Emma, please, can we talk somewhere private? Private? Like you've been keeping the scholarship private. Like you kept the business collapse private until I had to find out from strangers. Each word landed like a physical blow. She was right. Every decision I'd made to protect her had ended up hurting her more. I was trying to give you what you wanted, a way to succeed without depending on me. What I wanted was honesty. What I wanted was a mother who trusted me enough to tell me the truth instead of making decisions about my life behind my back. The conversation was spiraling beyond my control. Emma was crying openly now, 2 years of suppressed hurt and confusion pouring out in front of hundreds of strangers. That's when Marcus appeared at Emma's side. Maybe we should step outside. People are staring. But Emma whirled on him with a fury that made him step backward. People are staring? That's what you're worried about right now. She gestured around the room. My entire college career has been a lie, and you're concerned about appearances? I just thought. You thought wrong. This is between me and my mother. Marcus's parents had approached now, his father placing a protective hand on his son's shoulder. They looked like they wanted to contain the situation, manage the social embarrassment. Perhaps we should all take a breath, Marcus's father suggested in the tone of someone accustomed to controlling situations. This is clearly a family matter that should be handled privately. Something shifted in Emma's expression. She looked at Marcus, at his parents, at their obvious discomfort with our messy emotional display. You know what? You're right. This is a family matter. She turned back to me. And you're my family. Whatever mistakes you've made, whatever lies you've told, you're still my mother. The words hung in the air between us like a bridge I was afraid to cross. Emma. I'm furious with you. I'm hurt and confused and I don't know how to process any of this. But I'm angrier at myself for shutting you out of the last 3 years of my life because I was too stubborn to forgive you for being human. She stepped closer and I could see the little girl I'd raised in her eyes. You lost everything trying to give me a future. Then you lost everything again trying to give me that same future after I'd rejected your help. Do you have any idea how insane that is? Insanely stupid, maybe. Insanely loving. Emma's voice broke. Stupidly, impossibly loving. The reception hall had become a theater for our reconciliation. I could see Sarah in the crowd, tears streaming down her face as she watched her plan unfold. Other graduates and families were openly crying, caught up in the raw emotion of our confrontation. I missed you, Emma whispered. Every single day, I missed you. But I was so angry, and then too much time passed, and I didn't know how to come back. You don't have to come back. I'll meet you wherever you are. That's when my daughter launched herself into my arms, and for the first time in 3 years, I held my child. She sobbed against my shoulder while I stroked her hair, both of us trembling with the relief of connection. The room erupted in applause. Hundreds of strangers celebrating our reunion, this moment of forgiveness that had played out in front of them, but I barely heard it. All I could focus on was the weight of my daughter in my arms and the knowledge that we were going to be okay. When Emma finally pulled back, her makeup was ruined, but her smile was radiant. I have so many questions about the scholarship, about everything you've been doing the last few years. I'll tell you everything. No more secrets, no more trying to protect you from the truth. Good, because I want to know it all, and I want you to meet some real friends of mine, not just the people who are impressed by job titles and family money. I glanced over at Marcus, who stood with his parents looking like he'd rather be anywhere else on earth. What about Marcus, and your plans to move to California? Emma followed my gaze and sighed. Marcus is a good guy, but I think we want different things. He wants someone who fits into his world seamlessly. And I think I want someone who can handle my world, mess and all. She looked back at me with a mischievous grin that reminded me of the little girl who used to conspire with me against bedtime. Besides, I got offered a position with a consulting firm here in town. I was thinking about staying local for a while. You know, spending some time getting to know my mother again. Hope bloomed in my chest like spring after a brutal winter. I'd like that, more than you know. Just promise me something. Anything. No more anonymous scholarships, no more secret donations or behind-the-scenes help. If you want to support me, be upfront about it so I can say yes or no like an adult. Deal, though I reserve the right to send care packages and unsolicited advice. That's what mothers are for. We walked out of that reception hall together, arms linked, talking and laughing like we used to before everything fell apart. Sarah caught up with us in the parking lot, grinning at the success of her dramatic revelation. I can't believe you did that, Emma said, hugging her friend. You basically nuked my relationship and exposed my family drama in front of the entire graduating class. Someone had to break the stalemate. You were both too stubborn to make the first move. Sarah was right. We might have gone years longer, circling each other in pain and pride, if someone hadn't forced the truth into the light. As we stood in the parking lot, making plans for dinner and the long conversations that lay ahead, I realized that losing everything 3 years ago had been the beginning, not the end. Sometimes you have to fall completely apart before you can rebuild something stronger. Emma would still move to California eventually. She had dreams to chase and a life to build. But now I would be part of that life, not someone she was running from. The anonymous scholarship had been my way of loving her from a distance when I thought that was all I was allowed. But love in the open, love that risks rejection and demands forgiveness, love that shows up even when it's not invited, that was a different kind of gift entirely. One we could finally give each other again. As we drove toward the restaurant, Emma had chosen a little place downtown, where she wanted to hear every detail of how I'd rebuilt my life. I caught her eyes in the rearview mirror. Mom? Yeah? Thank you, for the scholarship, for staying away when I asked you to, for showing up today even though I told you not to. Thank you for loving me even when I was too hurt to love you back. That's what mothers do, sweetheart. We love you through everything, even when you don't want us to. Especially then. The graduation ceremony was over, but this felt like the real beginning, the start of who we were going to be together, now that all our secrets were finally out in the open.